everyone, how's it going? I hope your weekend went well. Mine did. It was mostly like a relaxing weekend, but I got some good like writing done on my own book, so that was nice. So today I'm actually doing my first part 2, I guess. I don't plan on doing like part 1s and part 2s too often. So yeah, anyway, I just finished, a couple of days ago, I finished the Nightmare Inspector series that I started about beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year. It was early January when I started these. And I'm super glad that I reread these, because I did read them before, but I haven't touched them since like high school. And I've moved to like 3 different apartments. The series always came with me. I never read it since high school, even though I moved out in like university. So I've been carrying it around, knowing that I've enjoyed it, but completely forgetting the ending apparently, because Okay, also, first off, this will be like a non-spoilery review at first, and then moving into spoilers, and I'll let you know when that happens. So basically, the main plot of the whole thing, I know I've mentioned it before, but I think before it was a little, I wasn't done yet. It was kind of like a muddled review. I don't know. Basically, it's about Hiroku the Baku, a person who lives in this Silver Star tea house, and he helps people with their nightmares. People's nightmares definitely, the nightmares are the coolest part. The nightmares basically manifest within people as representations of their deepest anxieties, their identity issues, different ways they try to work out traumas that they've been through or that someone else has been through, like a family member, and they're trying to figure out their past. The dreams get really creative and the art imagery is just gorgeous. And it's also a horror story. They're all little horror stories, so they get spooky, they get good and creepy, and they get bloody. One of my favorites, they're all episodic stories, so each chapter is like a different story with like a main plot kind of seeded through. I think my favorite short story had to be where Hiroku the Baku, the main character, and his, I'll say friend, because he's like the funny sidekick, Hifumi. I found him a little annoying sometimes, but hi! Coraline is saying hi. Hello, honey. Hello. Hi. Oh, also, I hope you don't mind just the skeletons like everywhere. I have about 20 of these things. I collect a whole bunch of different animals just throughout, like every time Halloween rolls around. I always wonder what I'm gonna get next. Anyway, distracted. I'm sorry. So where was I? Oh yeah, my favorite short story of the whole thing. Hiroku and Hifumi went to this bathhouse that was run by Hifumi's friend, who was kind of having a weird nightmare, but the nightmares were more reportedly about people having dreams of this ghost while they're in this bathhouse. And I won't give spoilers away on the individual story of that story because it's my favorite and it is weird and gruesome and stop it. And I won't give spoilers away on the individual story itself, but it's definitely one of the more gruesome ones, but not overtly in your face. It's implied that some horrible things happened within this bathhouse, and it's really creative and weird. So yeah, basically it's about Hiroku going through these people's nightmares to try to help fix them, try to help fix the nightmares, try to help the people work through their problems, and as payment, he gets a little version of the nightmare in like a marble form, and he eats it. That's the coolest thing. He eats these people's nightmares. That's what a Baku does. He eats their nightmares. As for the main plot, there's another character named Mizuki. She's the one who actually owns the tea house and Hiroku is staying there. And her brother is missing. Turns out, throughout the story, not major spoiler yet, but you realize that her brother met with an original Baku creature that doesn't look human. And then the Hiroku that we know kind of also gets involved in all of this. Not gonna lie, it will be easier getting into explaining reviews, explaining things in general once I do go into spoilers, so spoiler warning now, I'm gonna be talking some stuff about spoilers and end plot and just end game and just sadness, but in a good way. I was sad reading the end of this, but in a good way. So basically, throughout the main plots, throughout the little short stories, we learn different tidbits of information of an earthquake was involved, or like an earthquake happened 2 years ago, and it gets a little complicated. So what we do know at first is that Mizuki's brother Azusa is missing, and we find out that he's been contacted by a Baku and has decided to merge existent beings, merge himself, and become the new Baku. Because Azusa's main goal was definitely clouded in some heavy depression issues, because Azusa wasn't in a good headspace the entire time of his existence. He was definitely battling with depression. And when this Baku shows up and says, hey, I can offer you something new, a new kind of existence, and then therefore you can be my means of destruction, win-win either way, not so much. So Asuza makes this deal with this Baku and thinks that this new Baku way of life, of eating people's nightmares and dealing with all of their traumas, will help him, and it kind of obviously doesn't. I'll admit, I don't entirely understand Asuza's reasonings for this. I don't know why he chose to become a Baku, but I know that later on it leads to something that he did desperately want, which was his own destruction. So then Asuza, as this new Baku, and the Baku's name, the original creature's name of the Baku, the original Baku, he was called Hiroku. That was the Baku's name. So Hiroku, the original Baku, and Asuza merged beings. And then Asuza, with like the spirit of the Baku Hiroku in him, takes on the name Hiroku as well. And then he still wants to seek his own destruction, and he meets someone who's been tortured in a storehouse basically their entire life, named Chitose. So Asuza meets Chitose. Chitose is also not in a very good headspace. He's been tortured his entire life. And Chitose is having this pleasant dream of this little river he's able to run through to escape his physical pain of all of the torture sometimes. But it's being corrupted now. His dream is being corrupted and turning into a nightmare, which Asuza wants to be a part of. He wants Chitose's nightmare. So Asuza, with Hiroku the Baku spirit, makes a deal with Chitose to merge beings again. So now it's like the three of them are all connected. Chitose gets a new life to be the new Baku Hiroku that we know, the person we've known this entire story. And they actually have a good life. Things are working out finally for this third version of Hiroku. But now Asuza is missing. And Mizuki, his sister, who is running the tea house that Hiroku, third version Hiroku, is now staying at, she wants her brother Asuza back. So basically, it's a little confusing, I find, in regards to like the three versions of a Baku in three different bodies. You mainly meet two of them. You don't really see the original Hiroku Baku that often. But they do explain it as clearly as they can. They know it's a little complicated, so they do kind of walk you through it a couple of times, which I'm not mad at. I'm not a fan of like exposition, but being a manga and it's all like storyboarded pictures and just bits of dialogue, there wasn't really exposition. It was able to explain what was happening, not in the most clear sense, but as clear as they could for this kind of story. And you're able to follow it. I was able to follow it. I don't know if I explained it all that well, but I was able to follow it as much as I could. So in the end, major spoilers now, definitely. I'm already into the spoilers, but definitely major end spoilers now. The entire last book, the entire 9th book of the series, the short stories end, and we're just in like this one solid book of just, this is the end game now, one plot thread narrative all the way through. Asuza's back. I won't give all of the good little nuances away, because I do want more people to like read this, because it's honestly really good, and I don't want to give everything away. So, basically, Asuza is making a comeback. Chitose's original nightmare is corrupting the entire city, and everyone is falling into these horrible, depressing nightmares. And the Hiroku that we've known the entire time, the third version of him, becomes human again and sort of gets his human body back for a while. So while he has his own human body back, everyone else is falling victim to like his original nightmare, of Chitose's original nightmare. And he knows that he can fix it. He knows he has to contact Asuza, reunite him with Mizuki, and try to smooth things over, because the entire city is going insane. So that's the main plot. The third version of Hiroku is trying to save the city from a whole bunch of nightmares, which is stemming from his original nightmare as Chitose, and Asuza's mixed up in all of this because he's the one spreading all of this horrible madness. And I'll actually stop there in regards to like a recap kind of thing, because it is a really good manga and I do hope more people read it. And there is one more thing that made me really sad, but in a good way. So yes, I really enjoyed this series. I enjoyed every single one of the stories. I had my favorites, obviously, in regards to the episodic short stories of just the weird horror stories of that night of the nightmares. And I loved the plot threads going all the way through with the third version, with Hiroku and Mizuki. I like Mizuki. Even though she didn't really do a whole lot, she was definitely her own character in regards to how much she loved her brother. She wanted her brother back. But she's also not perfect. She is willing to sacrifice a few things to get her brother back. And as for the other character, Hifumi, I was a little annoyed by him quite often, but he does have his own honest backstory as well. There's like one odd story that's not nightmare related that finally gives Hifumi some background, but after that story is done, it doesn't really impact a whole lot. So there's that. Hifumi just kind of felt like a fun distraction now and then. So overall for the series, I absolutely loved it. I'm glad I reread it again. It made me sad, but in a good way. I loved all of the characters, except Hifumi. He was just annoying, but I didn't really mind him all that much. The art is amazing. The art is absolutely gorgeous. And they're horror stories, so the creativity gets really weird and out there. It gets a little gory sometimes, so I don't entirely mind. And the nightmares and short stories themselves get really creative. I think I mentioned that one before, but that's my favorite part. I loved the creativity behind the nightmares and how Hiroku needed to like solve them. So if you're in the mood for honestly either like one longer series of like 9 whole books with its own plot threads all the way through, but also episodic stories, and honestly in regards to loving this series, I probably would go back and just read a couple of the episodic stories just by themselves. Maybe it's late at night, maybe I can't sleep, want to go for a good nightmare. So I do recommend this series if you're into anything maybe horror-esque, and a manga with gorgeous art, really fun characters most of the time. Hifumi's fine. So yeah, I really enjoyed the series. Let me know if anyone else has read this sort of thing, because I'm definitely looking for more along the sorts of lines of just something short, because it is like 9 books. And I know there are like big books, big series when it comes to mangas. I've read Full Metal Alchemist. I really enjoyed that one. So maybe something along the lines of like that length. I don't know if I'm gonna get into like Naruto or One Piece, because I've heard that One Piece has just reached 1,000 chapters. That's a hell of a feat, but that's also a lot to get into. So I'm in the mood for something a little shorter right now. So yeah, basically, if anyone knows of any like horror or like thriller, scary short mangas, definitely let me know, because I do want to read those. Any kind of like dark fantasy ones as well. I don't know, something weird, something with like cool, creative, like scary imagery. That's what I'm really into. So yeah, feel free to definitely subscribe and like the video if you like. It definitely does help the channel and all of that stuff. Also, from now on, I will mention at the end of this video that I'm posting on Tuesdays now, just once a week, every Tuesday. I was planning to do like Tuesday and Friday, and I was able to upkeep that for, I think, a good like 3 weeks, but that's a lot for me right now. Oh, just for my own reasons, I'm cutting down to 1 video a week. I'm writing my own books, I have a day job, so I had to cut down to like 1 video a week. If I go back to 2, then great. But right now, 1 video a week, every Tuesdays. Feel free to subscribe so you guys know when they come out, like the video and all that stuff, and I will see you guys later. Bye.